The Virgin Suicides ending is somewhat open-ended, leaving many to ask, why did the Lisbon sisters kill themselves? Set in a quiet 1970s Michigan suburb, the film showcases the lives of the Lisbon sisters, led by Lux, Spider-Man's Kirsten Dunst, through the eyes of neighborhood boys, who remain enamored and haunted by their memories. This haunting narrative explores themes of youth, control, freedom, and the enigmatic essence of life and death, leaving a lasting impact. The film's legacy lies in its ability to resonate deeply with themes of loss and the elusive nature of understanding another's inner world. Based on the novel by Jeffrey Eugenides, the story navigates through the constrained lives of the 5 Lisbon sisters under the strict surveillance of their parents in a narrative filled with longing and mystery. The atmosphere that Lost in Translation director Sofia Coppola creates is one of palpable tension and suffocating control, portraying the inevitable crumbling of the sisters' spirits under the weight of their parents' restrictions. This backdrop sets the stage for a tragic conclusion, where the sisters, seemingly without escape, make a collective decision to end their lives, a choice that remains as bewildering as it is devastating. What happens in the Virgin Suicides ending? The Lisbon sisters die by suicide in a collective. The story, having chronicled the lives of the sisters under oppressive guardianship, culminates in a heart-wrenching finale. After a series of events that further isolate them from their peers and each other, the sisters decide to die by suicide in a collective, premeditated act. The boys, who have been watching from afar, hoping to understand or perhaps save them, arrive too late, finding the sisters in a tragic tableau that seals their fate as eternal mysteries. This ending also serves as a somber reflection on the themes of entrapment, despair, and the impact of isolation on the human spirit. The Lisbon sisters' deaths are a result of their entrapment. The sisters lived under stringent control of their parents. The Lisbon sisters huddled together in the Virgin Suicides. The entrapment experienced by the Lisbon sisters forms the crux of their tragic fate. Living under the stringent control of their parents, the sisters are depicted as ethereal figures trapped in an existence that stifles their desires, individuality, and connection to the outside world. This intense supervision and isolation from societal norms and interactions serve as a double-edged sword, protecting them from the external world's perceived corruption but simultaneously imprisoning them within their own home. The psychological and emotional toll is portrayed through the sisters' increasingly desperate actions and their ultimate decision to escape the only way they see possible. This entrapment is not merely physical but deeply psychological, permeating the very essence of their being and shaping their perception of the world around them. The lack of freedom to explore, grow, and make autonomous decisions leads to a profound sense of despair and hopelessness, which, coupled with their inability to envision a future beyond their immediate surroundings, catalyzes their tragic end. The sisters' deaths can be seen as a final act of defiance, a means to assert control over their lives in the face of unbearable confinement and to escape a world that offers them no means of expression. The decaying house is a symbolic representation of the Lisbon family's confinement. The property is a physical manifestation of the sisters' isolation. The Lisbon sisters looking out of their window in the Virgin Suicides. The Lisbon family's home, a decaying house, stands as a potent symbol within the Virgin Suicides, mirroring the family's internal disintegration and the psychological confinement of the sisters. As the movie progresses, the house, once a symbol of suburban respectability, deteriorates into a physical manifestation of the family's isolation and the oppressive nature of their existence. This decline parallels the gradual loss of hope and vitality within the sisters, emphasizing the toxic environment that contributes to their tragic decision. The house, with its barred windows and neglected garden, reflects the suffocating control exerted by the Lisbon parents. The house, in its dilapidated state, serves as a constant reminder of the futility of the parents' attempts to preserve their daughter's innocence, ultimately showcasing how such efforts can lead to devastating outcomes. The home becomes a metaphor for the family itself, outwardly pristine but internally crumbling under the weight of its own restrictions. This decay is not just physical but emotional and spiritual, representing the slow erosion of the sisters' will to live under such oppressive conditions. Why the story is told from everyone's perspectives but the Lisbon sisters. The Virgin Suicides explores the ways in which people can overlook others' struggles. Lux leans against a locker with a boy in the Virgin Suicides. One of the most compelling narrative choices in the Virgin Suicides is the decision to tell the story from the perspectives of everyone except the Lisbon sisters themselves. This approach creates a sense of mystery and longing, as the audience is kept at a distance, much like the neighborhood boys who can only speculate on the inner lives of the sisters. The distinct narrative technique emphasizes the theme of misunderstanding and the inherent difficulty of truly knowing another person. By denying direct access to the sisters' thoughts, Coppola underscores the complexity of the human psyche and the limitations of perception. This also serves to highlight the objectification and idealization of the Lisbon sisters, portraying them as ethereal, almost mythical figures in the eyes of their observers. The narrative gap between the sisters' lived experiences and the boys' perceptions of those experiences illustrates the dangers of romanticizing others without understanding their reality. It reflects on how society often views troubled individuals through a lens that simplifies or ignores their suffering, focusing instead on their mystique. By keeping the sisters' perspectives elusive, the film invites viewers to confront their assumptions and consider the myriad ways in which people can overlook others' struggles. The meaning behind the Virgin Suicide's rotting tree. The tree's removal reflects tendencies to prioritize appearances over real problems. A Lisbon sister climbs a tree in the Virgin Suicides. The rotting tree in the Virgin Suicide serves as a critical symbol within the film, embodying the themes of decay, neglect, and the stifling atmosphere of the Lisbon household. Positioned prominently in the sisters' front yard, the tree is a constant, looming presence that mirrors the family's downward spiral. Its removal, demanded by the neighborhood as a safety concern, acts as a metaphor for the community's attempt to sanitize or remove the visible signs of decay without addressing the underlying issues that cause such deterioration. The tree's decay symbolizes the pervasive rot within the Lisbon family, a rot that extends beyond the physical environment to infect the emotional and psychological well-being of its members. It reflects the consequences of a life lived in confinement, devoid of the natural growth, exploration, and freedom necessary for healthy development. Furthermore, the community's reaction to the tree, focusing on its removal rather than the health of the family it represents,